Okay, well, I had my wife help me unload this from the truck. It was just a little too heavy for me to get myself. And as I get older, I'm learning the importance of not messing up your back, because I've done that a few times. What I'm going to do, first thing, is put legs on this, because it's not good for, especially the sides here, sitting on the ground like that. It's easy for the veneer to get pulled off. So before I do anything, I'm going to lean it back and put these furniture legs that I got. I think they look pretty appropriate. They have rubber feet, so it won't scratch up your floor. It won't rattle. So let me flip this guy over and I'll put the legs on. Okay, here's the new legs, and what I did is I splayed them out. The reason I did that is because when these speakers are opened, it's going to make the front a little bit unwieldy, and I want to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed. And I remember seeing a picture of this that one of my friends, Brett, sent me, and the legs on the real legs actually protrude out in the front like that too. Again, I needed to distribute the weight. Luckily, most of the guts and the weight is on the bottom. This is probably the amplifier right there, and it's got all the iron and stuff on it. And then of course it's got the bottom of the cabinet, which weighs a little bit more. So I'm going to try to stand it up and see if it's more stable. Well, that looks a lot better. The only thing I'm not wild about, the cabinet is not in wonderful shape. We definitely got some discoloration going on. It's probably UV damage. I'm particularly concerned about the front. I don't know, I could probably clean it up a little bit. I wish they had not done that, put that tape on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to test fire it and see if it still works. Phono FM. Loudness. Okay, that's off. Let's bring it up on the Variac and watch to see if it draws anything. Okay, I'm putting about 40 volts into it and I'm getting no draw, so it's not, either it's not on. I'm trying to remember where some of these pull on. Oh wait, that's on. Okay, well I see, I know I can't hardly film that. I saw the, there's a pilot light down there. Okay, so we've got, it's drawing something, and right now it's at 36 volt, drawing about 13 watts. It's about what I would expect. It's not doing anything horrible. Let me bring it up just a little bit more. Like I said, these guys are pretty well built, but I'm suspicious about why it got donated all of a sudden. Sometimes it means something horrible is happening or something bad is happening, but okay. Let me take a look over here. Okay, I don't hear anything yet, but I shouldn't because there's not much. Okay, it's not doing anything horrible. Let me go ahead. This guy has a relay on it too, a safety relay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it up.
Center on Tuesday, August 5th.
The hybrid models from the longest lasting brand on the road.
Always buckle up and drive safely.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try.
Jesus, this thing absolutely rocks. Literally.
The all-new 2020.
There's been a mix, right? Like, oh, you can dish it, but
Here's Studio City here in LA.
All right. That's FM.
Thanks to the powerful solution. Trusted window experts at Brothers Home.
All right. Well, so far, let's see if the record player is going to do anything. It needs to be cleaned, but maybe I can go through the cycle. I can see if it's got any. Let's see. Put it on. All right. Might work. Good record. Record player does have audio, but the either the cartridge, the mechanism, or whatever, a combination of both, it's not working correctly. It's not tracking. But that's okay. The fact that everything pretty much works is pretty amazing. It's probably never been restored, and I probably shouldn't be pressing my luck on this. Running on all those original components, it would be very easy for something like the electrolytics to short and then take out the power transformer, which would be very sad and unfortunate. So, and I've had it happen. I know some people are like, it's like, yes, I've had that happen before, and it's very painful, and you'd never forget it when it happens. So trust me, don't run old electronics like this for long periods of time. In fact, you probably shouldn't even do what I was doing. But you can seriously damage some of these items, especially once you start getting, even older than this. You get into the 30s and 40s, don't trust any of that stuff. All those capacitors are shot, unless you're talking about super heavy-duty specialized military equipment. And even then, it's not a guaranteed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the disassembly process, and then I'm going to take the back off and see how this thing is put together. Got a good feeling I do, because I've worked on probably about 10 of these. Well, color me slightly surprised. This is not what I expected to see. Now, no doubt it is a 3-channel amplifier. You've got the base output transformer and then the right and left channels. But you've only got push-pull output tubes for 2 channels. So I'm wondering what they're doing here. Here's my theory. My theory is that they're using these two to drive the right and left channels, because the right and left channel speakers aren't as large. And then they're using a push-pull here just for that speaker. And this is kind of like the genius of this design, in my opinion, which is that you can maybe not have the sexiest tube lineup, or maybe even a lot of output wattage per se, or output power, but if you have a efficient large speaker for your bass, you can spread your right and left channels out, and those speakers really don't have to be as remarkable, because the bass is doing most of the bass work. And the result is that you get a pretty decent sound stereo for not using a lot of exotic materials, and I kind of appreciate that. This is the system that I use in my garage. I have the nicer version of this amp. This is the push-pull per each channel 6v6 version of this amp. But even so, I think the bass is probably maybe 8 to 10 watts, maybe even less than that. But if I crank it in here, it'll absolutely wail. Then again, your speakers have a lot to do with your efficiency too. This is it's hard to film because it's so freaking big. This is a 1940s RCA LC1 studio speaker, and they were prized in their day. They were used in a lot of the studios, especially in Nashville, Los Angeles. And then the rest of it, I have nothing sexy at all. It's just like crappy speakers that I found. And so I'm just driving it off that little bitty amplifier. Anyway, I just realized I should probably clean my wife's car, which is filthy, and then I'm going to start taking this apart, because I was looking at it and I was like, that sure is dirty. It's just as dirty as my wife's car. Alright, so I got out the Shark vacuum cleaner. I'm going to clean this out. And by the way, you know, there's some of those other fancy brands of vacuum cleaners. We have like 2 Shark vacuum cleaners, and what I like about them is you can completely take them apart. They have tons of really cheap replacement parts, either theirs or generic, and I like stuff you can maintain. You can maintain this stuff forever, and it's reliable. So I'm going to use it to clean this out because I don't want to get this crap in the air, and this has a filter in it. And then I will get my hands on the chassis. Now isn't that nice? Went from having kind of a gross looking interior to kind of a almost squeaky clean interior. So I vacuumed it out and I just wiped everything down with a little damp cloth. And you don't have to do this, but I just like working on things that are clean. I don't know why, it just makes me feel better about it. I found, here's the original inspection tag from the factory. There's the tuner, which is squeaky clean because it's protected. I'm trying to figure out, how does that come out? How does it come out? I'm going to guess that these 2 bolts come out and this whole thing just lifts up. That'd be my guess. Let me see if one of these knobs comes off. Jesus, son, they're good. Make sure there's no set screws. Surely that's going to come off, right? All right. Yuck. Looks like whatever foam was under there is disintegrated. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty certain this unit just comes out straight up. And that means I might have to disconnect that so I can get it out of there, but we'll see. And can I just say something for a second? It's been a while since I've worked on one of these, and I've kind of, for some reason, I've just restored a ton of German stereos. Even though it's enjoyable in its own way, it is refreshing to work on an American set like this. It is so basic and so straightforward, and that's what I love about it. Like, there's nothing to it, but it works well, it sounds good, and it's bulletproof. I think by the time you get to late 50s, early 60s, tube electronics was at its peak. You have excellent tubes and longer, tube life, as well as better quality components like this electrolytic capacitor. Not sure if it's still good, but the fact that I didn't hear any hum and it worked means possibly. The materials were a lot better. You had better films, better chemistry, things just were better understood. Things didn't break down as easily. So nevertheless, this is a good candidate for being completely overhauled. And the reason is because, as these do sound really good, as you might have ascertained from listening to the video, it could be very well used for regular everyday use in someone's home. And if that's the case, you want to make sure that its heart and soul is good and healthy. It's kind of like an old car. There's some tired things in there. The same's going to go with this. There's a electrolytic capacitor right there. Now, depending on how it's mounted, I can test it to see if it's good or not. I don't think it's on a PC. Oh, it's not on a PC board design. That's good. Excellent. That probably means it's chassis mounted too. All right, let me shut up. And the other thing that's important is take pictures. Even though this one's easier, you just want to make sure you remember what speaker goes where. And it'll be pretty easy. I'm not going to take the speakers out. I'm just going to mark these. Here we are on technically day number 2 working on the Motorola, and I took the amp and the tuner chassis out. And yesterday I was assuming that these 2 tubes up here would probably be powering the basis speaker, and I was correct, because if you look on the tag here, it even says so, like right. Bass power amp, and then left and right. and then left and right amp. And this is obviously the rectifier and the electrolytic. So I'm taking all the tubes out. And let's look underneath. Well, actually, I haven't taken these out. It's easy to do, and they're marked really clearly. I want to test those too. And unsurprisingly, it's never been worked on. I take that back. I think someone added these at a later date, these inputs, but probably a long time ago. But as far as the electronics and their components are concerned, this is all original. And I like the fact, well, again, when this was made, we're getting into the late 50s, early 60s. By then, a lot of the manufacturers had moved beyond the paper capacitors, and we're using a lot of ceramic capacitors that are orange or brown dips, and we have nothing but that in here. The only thing to replace is these electrolytic capacitors, which are, this is the underside, and let's see what those values are. It's probably going to be a whole bunch of 40 microfarad or 50 microfarad capacitors. Let's see what it says here. 40, 40, 40, 30, all at 400 volts. So I'm going to replace all of those with 47 microfarad, 450 volt electrolytic capacitors. I am curious, though, about what kind of condition this is in. So I'm going to get my capacitor checker out, and I'm going to fire it up and see what we got here. All right, here we go. Let's see what it'll do. Not great, but it didn't absolutely peg the meter the other way. Ooh. Oh, that's not nice. I'll give that a few minutes. I need to water the plants, but that is not looking at all good. Now, granted, it's falling a little bit. It could possibly be a reformable electrolytic, but I really don't like seeing that. That indicates bad capacitor, real bad capacitor. It's easy enough just to change these guys, but the fact that it worked, even though that guy tests pretty nastily, it's a good enough reason to go ahead and replace it. And with these, it's easier because the chassis is ground. So if you've got, like, say, the first one here, which is this single wire, I'm not going to get anywhere near that, because I could shock myself. I can just relocate the ground anywhere, and I can run a, an additional longer positive lead if I need. Especially easier when you only have one thing attached to that lug. Now, since we've been talking, it's already fallen down as far as the reforming goes quite a bit. But that's still a very sick capacitor. I'm just going to call it bad. Make sure that you discharge these guys. Be careful when you operate these. They are machines that put out real voltage, and you can get shocked. Even though a lot of people probably don't even know where to get these anymore. That's why they're becoming collectible. It's because there's not a lot of, good old-fashioned capacitor analyzers like this that'll put out the voltage you need for tube-based electronics, because a lot of the solid-state stuff's only working on a few volts versus this stuff, which operates, minimum 250 volts. Yeah, that's all there is to it. It's just 4 electrolytic capacitors. The biggest challenge was this one up here that had like 5,000 things attached to it. Anyway, this resistor here, I put it right up against the metal. It was kind of like that in the factory. Helps dissipate the heat a little bit. You want to make sure you have a little bit of a gap between resistors like this and capacitors. These guys don't get particularly warm, but still, just leave a little air around them. So now that that's done, I can drag over the tuner, get that off the board, and see what's going on with it. I can tell you one thing, this can't be FM stereo. There's no decoder here, and to me it just looks like a fancy tabletop radio chassis, which is fine. It says to service tuning eye tube, lift complete unit out of well. remove knobs. I didn't see a tuning eye. It says there's one there. Oh, it's that thing. It's back there. I don't remember seeing that when I was testing it out. EM81. Hope it's one of those ones that have a longer lifespan. Some of the earlier tuning eyes kind of sucked, but I think that one's a much later one. It's probably like the one that I have on my unit up here. Been on for like 12 years. Anyway, let me pull this out, see what's underneath. Okay, got the tuner out, and I can tell by looking underneath here, that's like an EM81 or 85 or something like that, and those have pretty short life expectancies. As far as the Foster, it's probably bad. That's probably why I didn't see it when I fired it up. So I'm going to take these tubes out on the top so I don't break them. I'm going to flip this over. Well, not much to do under here. It's kind of like the amplifier chassis. We have the 3 electrolytics here. 1, 2, 3. But this is a lower voltage chassis. I checked, and the can up here, the electrolytic can says, you can see it right here. If you can get that upside down, 40. What does that say? 40, 50, and 50. All right. So I'm going to replace all 3 of those with 3 4760 volt rated capacitors, because everything in this chassis essentially operates the same voltage as a tabletop radio, and so we don't need to have the 450 volt parts for this. Let me just double confirm. Yep, 150 volts. So I have to use those giant capacitors. Plus, there's no sense in using. Why do jet planes always go over my house? Answer: I bought a house near an airport. All right. Anyway, same dealio with these. Like I'll just like unwire, and then you can just find a negative somewhere in the chassis if it's convenient to mount them. Again, not much going on here. Replaced all those capacitors. Also, while I was under here, I oiled this up so it's going to move a little bit more smoothly. And it's pretty clean up here, but what I want to do is also lubricate the bearings for the actual tuning condenser itself. There's one up here on the front. I'm using Zoom spout oil. It comes in a nice bottle like this, and with a nice little snout on the end of it so you can get into little tight spaces. Very handy. Alright. And just work that in a little bit. Seems like it's a little bit stuck there maybe. Okay. I didn't check that to see if it's any good, but I'll clean this up a little bit, and then it'll be time to, I think, work on the cabinet a little bit. Okay, I've been not looking forward to this, but I am going to start cleaning the cabinet. It's got some pretty nasty sun damage. I'm going to try something I've never tried before, which I'm going to attempt to halt the degradation, but what I need to do is remove some stains. I'm not sure if I can get rid of them either. Okay, well, I spent a decent amount of time trying to clean this up a little bit. When it's open, it looks great. I'm just going to hope that maybe whoever owns it in the future, that was what they will choose to do, because otherwise you can't hear it. But this door is the problem. And what I've been doing is I've been spraying bleach on it to try to ease that stain up a little bit. The other door looks a little bit better, but the majority of the problem area is right in there. And the top here, I was able to clean it up pretty good. I was also able to clean up the interior really nicely. But what I'm going to do is, I think, again, either something was sat here or it was in the sun. This is all okay. That is starting to peel up, so I'm going to get some hand rub-on polyurethane and just go over that. It's a satin, so you won't see it, but also it'll keep that from getting worse. I'm going to do that in There's some other areas where it's doing that pretty badly. Unfortunately, this panel here is doing that pretty badly. I'm hoping it's not going to discolor the wood when I do it, but otherwise there's nothing keeping that finish from coming off entirely. There's a little damage down here too. This thing must have been gorgeous when it was new, because if you look inside, like, you can see what it used to look like. Like, it's just very pleasant. And most people did not choose to go with this. A lot of people went with the darker stuff. This is so much more refreshing and cool looking versus the usual mahogany. This is after me cleaning it up and applying some hand rubbed polyurethane just as a protective coat to keep it kind of like knocked down. That doesn't look great, but you know what? It's not going to chip anymore. And when it's open, it doesn't look horrible. It looks reasonable, I guess. The problem child remains this door, for sure. See, it's definitely not thrilled. It's not amazing looking. It's got what I would consider a good, I don't know, 5-foot stair. Maybe it won't be so bad once it's in your house. I'm thinking about what to do about this. If so, some semi-transparent brush-on blonde finish, that would help. But that just might make it look even dumber. I don't know. All right. Meanwhile, I'll work on the record player, which, by the way, unlike the cabinet, is in rather stunning condition. I've never worked on one of these where this wasn't pitted, but this looks perfect. And the fact that it's still kind of turned and halfway worked means that it's probably not in bad shape mechanically either. So let's take a look underneath as I drop it violently against my workbench. That's a voice of music movement or changer mechanism. And it seems like it's moving pretty well already, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't clean it up because it wasn't cycling very well at all. I also want to take the platter off so I can see what the condition of the rubber idler pulleys are. Well, it's very clean under here too. And the rubber is still nice and squishy, so that's good. And the rubber mounts for the motor, seems like it's moving appropriately for the speeds. That's on 33, and that is right on the money as far as it lining up with the motor. But what I'm going to do is clean this up a little bit, and then I'm going to take that thing off of there, because when I oil this, I want to make sure I don't get any oil on the rubber. It's ruined. Welcome back to day whatever on working on the Motorola. I've lost count of the days. We actually got another console that came in yesterday, and I've got to deal with that. Here it is. And as you guys know that I work on a lot of German stereos, here's another one. So you guys have that to look forward to. But the Motorola, I want to finish that up possibly today. I'm still deciding, but I think what I'm going to do with this stereo is there's a couple that's been texting me off and on, and this woman would really like to get a stereo for her husband. And you know, the stereos that we sell helps fund the museum. And I thought, you know, I could spend who knows how long trying to work on this finish, or I could just tell them, hey, you know, I've got a stereo here that sounds really good, and it looks pretty cool, and it'll be reliable, but it's cosmetically challenged. So I'm going to see if I can give them a deal, and that'll both make their day, it'll make our day, and it'll, you know, there's days where I'm like, you know what, if someone really wants something to enjoy, then why not help them out a little bit? And sometimes these aren't restored to perfection, and sometimes it's okay when you have something that's getting to be 60, 70, 80, 90 years old that looks like it's been on the planet for a while. Granted, do I wish they were all perfect? Yes. But that's not the case. I mean, think about all the things that are in your life. Do you think 50, 60 years from now it's going to look anything like this? Probably not. It'll probably be 20 feet under in a landfill somewhere. And that's, I think, why I like working on a lot of this stuff so much, is because you can keep the stuff running indefinitely. Like, look at all this on my bench right now. I have stuff from the early 40s through the 60s, and all of it can be made to work again. And once it's made to work and restored, we'll go for years, potentially decades, before it'll need anything. At worst, maybe a tube or resistor here and there, but it's always repairable. Granted, there's some pieces that are unobtainium, but compared to a lot of modern electronics, where yes, you could probably replace the board, there's some components that are so tiny and so fine that you can't repair it, or you need the special equipment, which a lot of us don't have. But let me get back to the Motorola. The record player, as we saw, did kind of work. And what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, is take all the rubber bits off, which is in this case just that. And I'm going to clean and lubricate the changer mechanism. And I also need to see what's going on with this cartridge, because the needle seems like it's coming way the fuck down. I don't know why I'm cushioning that much. It's like 8:30 in the morning on Sunday. But anyway, I want to try to get this out today. Okay, so what is the first thing that I tend to do on these? Oil this, because what that is this giant cog, and that cog moves this back and forth, which drives the changer mech. And if that's not moving very freely, then you're just going to have a really slow working mechanism. So what I do, I really need to get a better camera set up instead of the stupid ass way that I film things, is I'll take that C-clip off and I'll put, what I've been doing on this, and I know the record changer guys will shake their heads, is you need to dissolve and clean up some of the old grease. So lately I've been using PB Blaster. I put a little in there and let it work down. But what you want to do is pull that C-clip so that you can actually move that cog kind of like up and down a little bit to work some of the new lubrication in there. But sometimes what I'll do just off the bat is I have this little blowtorch. And you can just, touch up the area where it's... Be very careful when you do this, by the way. One time I was a dumbass. And I was doing something else, and I think I'd put carb cleaner on something, and it hadn't totally evaporated. And I did that, and it just like, whoa, and I had to walk outside with a flaming record player in my hands. Stupid. That is why it's important to have a fire extinguisher at your workbench. I also have a garden hose right outside the door, so I'm always wary of catching things on fire, because I have done it. In fact, the worst that I ever did, and this is beyond stupid, is this had a problem. My Variac, and I took it in to the museum, and we worked on it. My friend Rajesh was like, oh, you should clean the board with alcohol. I was like, great idea. And so I did. And before it evaporated, and again, this was stupid, I started soldering on it or something, and there was a spark, and it just, again, it was contained in a box, but I walked outside with this in my hands and put it down and hosed it off, and it dried out. And why am I telling you this story? Now you're going to watch this channel and be like, this guy's an idiot. So again, let me take that off there and see if I can get it working well. All right, like I said, you take the C-clip off and you can move this around. Just want to make sure that all of the mechanism moves well. And what I'm going to do now, and I don't recommend you do this if you don't know what you're doing, is I'm going to connect this to AC, put the platter back on. Well, actually, I need to do a few other things, but what I want to do is make sure, before I put it back on the machine, that all of the stuff that moves, that's supposed to change and otherwise do its thing is going to work properly. It's better to do it outside of the console in the case before you put it back in, because you're going to have to take it in and out, in and out, in and out until it works perfectly. I lied. Partially laziness, partially practicality. The the interlocking plug here made it difficult for me to wire up easily anyway. And I thought, well, you know what? It's pretty easy to drop in the record player and take it out again. So that's just what I'm going to do. I did manually cycle it, and it seems like it's okay, but we'll see. In the meantime, I've got all the stuff out to put back together again so I can reassemble it and hopefully not have any drama. I don't remember if this pilot light works, and I don't know how in the hell you're supposed to get up in there, because I can't even fit my arm up in there, but it must be the same for the light up here, which I assume must be connected to the same lead. Here it is, it's coming down this way. But what about the pilot light? Where is the wiring for the pilot light? Because you'd think it'd come down through here, right? But I don't see cable unless... See if there's other wiring coming out of this. No, it's just that. That's... So where is that getting power? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm slowly reassembling everything and plugging things in, but not bolting them in. I can't speak today. Bolting them in. Before I button it up, I've been testing all the tubes, and here's the thing that I've noticed about working on these Motorola's. I have no idea why, but I've worked on quite a few of these, and it must be pretty easy on the tubes, because, I mean, 6BQ5s usually get beat up pretty bad, but it seems like the ones that I've worked on, 6BQ5s and the 6V6 variants, they're pretty happy. I think I've changed one tube in my Motorola, and I use it every day in the garage. Yep. Happy tubes. But I want to test the 5U4 specifically, because these also get beat up pretty badly. But I think we're going to be good here. Well, the key is broken off the 5U4. This tested good, but this is not my stereo. It'll ultimately belong to someone else, and I don't want them to potentially put that in wrong and then mess up the transformer. So I found another 5U4, and I was like, oh, okay. The first one I got my hands on was a giant Coke bottle one. And... doesn't seem like it's very happy. 5U4. A, and press 7. Minimum's 40. It's not even making it to minimum. Alright, well, it's pretty. It's not happy. Let me find another one. I found this other big boy. It's not as sexy as the Coke bottle one, but it tests good. And no shorts. So I'll put that one in there. Last is to test the 12AX7s. It looks like actually these two have been replaced. There's a Sylvania and a GE. And actually the rectifier wasn't the original either. That was also a GE. So I take that back. This one's maybe been exercised a lot. Let's see. Those are all Motorola's. I don't know about that. That's a Sylvania too. So this unit might have had a lot of hours on it, but again, I have a lot of hours on mine too. Not surprising. Alright, well, everything tests good. This 12AX7's a little tired. It meets minimum. It's just that I was going through all my 12AX7s and they're all tired. It'll work fine, but I'm just going to make a note that the GE12AX7 probably needs a refresh, so I'll do that. Next time I go to the museum, I'll grab one, because we have tons. The rest of these are all fine. Take away these rectifiers and these two 12AX7s, and we're good. So I'm going to put this all back, wired up, and fired up, and see if we're still cooking with gas. Okay, on our initial test, I got good news and bad news. Good news is that it seems like we're pretty much working. Here's the tuner. Seems like it's a lot cleaner sounding, but the problem I'm having is when I go to one of our audio inputs. So if I go to tape, which is for this, like there's a little bit of a hum, unless I turn the record player on. So here's what I think's happening. Someone added these additional inputs at some point back here, and they're just going directly into the input feed. They're not going through that. So watch this. Not happy. So I'm going to remove those because they're not necessary. And I think some of my controls are still a little bit dirty. Alright, so let me do that. Quit filming. Let me show y'all what a moron I am. So I clipped it all out of there, and I was like, great. And I plugged it back in, and it sounded awful. I was like, great. And I wasn't paying attention when I was doing it. I chopped right through this guy. So that messed it all up. So I'm going to have to replace that. He's keeping busy, getting started. His machinations and his palindromes. Is anything but hear the voice. Anything but hear the voice. It was anything but hear the voice that says that we're all basically. Professor Pension had only good intentions. Put his bus and burn us all away. What it turned out to be was, I know it sounds stupid, there's a bunch of dirty contacts. So I cleaned it up a little bit, and so now that it seems like it's working simpatico, I do want to try the record player. At least see if I get a sound out of it, because previously it wasn't doing anything. Alright, let me turn it to record player. Alright. That still feels like it's not. Crap. Alright. Alright, let me try it again. Alright. Doesn't seem like anything's coming through. That's not good. Is it connected? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Got this running in here. But I don't hear anything out of the amp. And what the heck? The amp is off. Now, how does that make any sense whatsoever? The record player is turning. It's set to record player. I'm confused. Like, why is my amp turning off? That doesn't make any sense. freaking weird. There's got to be something stupid that I'm doing here because I haven't changed anything. Now, Houston, we have a little bit of a problem here. The problem is that there's supposed to be a switch that switches from tape player to record player. And that switch is not working, and plus I've got dirt in the contacts. And so that's going to have to come out. I really didn't want to take that out because I couldn't figure it out. I was too lazy to figure it out, but that's just what's going to have to happen. And I think I know now why they must have run these weird additional audio cables in, because it could be the switches. Yeah, that's real nice. I don't know what that is. Some bad contacts. Bad contacts everywhere. Crap. Don't you just love it when projects go sideways? I'll turn it off. Well, here's what you got to do on these things. You got to take this panel off under here. And behold, a whole bunch of crap I missed. That's got to come out. And that needs to be rebuilt because there's an electrolytic there. There's two more 12AX7s, and there's probably another electrolytic inside. And also I can see if the on-off switch is gummed up. And do some continuity checks, whatever. Well, you can see there's quite a bit going on. And there's a single 10 microfarad 400 volt capacitor here. And that is... looks like it's going to pin number, the last pin of 12AX7 on this one, and then where's the other one going? Probably going to similarly to, where else is it going? Well, it's also going to pin number, it's hard to tell looking upside down at this thing. Where's the keyway? All right, I'm not going to try to guesstimate what it's going to without having a schematic in front of me. Besides, it's not important. But what I want to do also is free up this switch, because I think this is a two-way switch. But first, I want to replace that electrolytic capacitor, because it's probably no good, and that could be the reason why I was getting that weird popping, hissing, crackling noise. Okay, well, that cleaned up my noise. The bad problem is that switch is broken. It won't switch over just to record player. Luckily, the record player motor works. Cartridge is good. I think the needle's kind of messed up on it. So what I'm going to have to do is put a splitter on it, and the record's going to have to basically take up the same spot as the tape player. So unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that. That switch in there is real specific. Pretty much a custom job for that model, for this model. But electrically, I think it's happy except for that switch. And you know what? Like, it still sounds pretty damn good. Okay, so I got most of it back together again. I'm gonna clean up these wires a little bit. It's kind of gross looking. By the way, I hadn't even checked about what I did to myself, but I absolutely nailed myself on the head. I dropped a tool in my face while I was underneath there, trying to put the pre-tuner back in there, the preamp. It's hard to get up in there, and my nut driver fell on my forehead. Ow, that hurt. I'll probably ask at work what I did to myself, and I'll have to explain. Nailed myself in the head with my own tools. Well, for some reason the switch started working again. Out of the blue. But my record player's messed up. I think that needle's really messed up. Doesn't seem like it's tracking very much at all. Whoops. But we got audio and well, now it seems to be working all right. Got a lot of bad connection problems here, like just dirty contacts. To clean up these contacts before I send it out. All right, I'll check that needle out. Well, luckily I had some extra needles around, but I'm gonna go look for another one because all I had is these crappy old ones, and I cleaned them up a little bit. But I put a halfway decent one on there. Oh, Wolfman Jack never sounded so good. Anyway, that's not Wolfman Jack, but that's his show. Anyway, if you were here around here in the Bay Area, he was kind of a big deal back in the day. It's just taking me going over and over this thing, cleaning up the contacts, making sure everything works before I think about buttoning it up. And I keep on getting these cracklies in the audio, and it's still some dirty contacts in the tubes, sockets, and some of the other connections. Anyway, give it a little bit of an exercise for the off and on for the rest of the day, but now it's time to go work in the yard. All right, I'm back, and this black thing is, I believe, going to be a good replacement. I found these tubes. I didn't even look in the boxes. I should have done that, but they look like they're new old stock. Those are Panasonic brand. I just love the graphics. Like, that looks awesome even today. Like, if I'd worked for a brand that looked like that, I'd be like, that's cool. I'd wear a t-shirt that had that on there. But I don't know. I'm jaded. I've been working in the graphic design / design business for over quarter of a century now. Anyway, let me install this stuff. And also what I want to do is maybe clean up the contacts on the cartridge a little bit. It seemed like it was squealing a little bit. Okay. So I got the new needle in, but I haven't put the new tubes in. It seems like it sounded a lot better. Alright, that sounded pretty good. I still feel like I'm getting a little cracklies here, and it's like this one socket up here with the 12AX7. Anyway, I'm going to put the other tubes in the sockets up front here. Why'd they bother with that power light? You can't even see it. Anyway, stick new guys in these. Alright, well, it's working well. That's radio, and then this is obviously the record player. I'm too lazy to get two records to stack on top of each other, but the cycle changer mechanism works. I got a new needle on here, and Anyway, I actually had this playing almost all afternoon and into the evening yesterday, and didn't have any problems with it. Initially, there were a lot of issues with like contacts, both in the controls, tone controls, balance, as well as the RCA connections, and all of those have been cleaned up, gone through. I've cycled through all the controls repeatedly, and it works reliably, and I suspect it should work reliably for many years afterwards. Enough so that I'm going to put the back on and button it up and call it done. No, it's not perfect, and I'm hoping I'll find a happy home to have someone get this radio from us, well, this stereo from us in our museum. It's not going to be priced at a premium level because of the cosmetics, but you know what? Like, if you wanted a good stereo that sounds good, this is your golden ticket. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching this episode of Radiorama. Until the next time something comes across my workbench, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.